He fired me with a piece of software. I remember the bluish glow of the dashboard projected on the screen, displaying charts and metrics that promised a perfect world. Victor, the new COO, Chief Operating Officer, brought in from a fancy consulting firm to revolutionize our logistics, was pacing the stage like a prophet of a new era. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Chronos system," he announced, with a smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. "It's the end of improvisation, the end of making a few calls. It's the future of efficiency, powered by artificial intelligence and real-time optimization." I had been at Logimax for 18 years. I started in the warehouse yard, a clipboard in my hand, and worked my way up to director of operations. I didn't just manage logistics. I was the logistics. I knew Mr. Peterson, the port supervisor, who would only release urgent containers after hearing a good joke over the phone. I knew that Johnson's trucking company always had an extra truck hidden away for emergencies, a favor he owed me. I had handshake deals with striking suppliers and knew which back road flooded on rainy days, even if the GPS said otherwise. My system wasn't on a server. It was in my head, in my battered contact book, and in a web of human relationships built on sweat and trust. But to Victor, if it couldn't be translated into an algorithm, it was chaos. He saw my method not as the glue holding everything together, but as a risk, an inefficient analog relic. He moved to the climax of his presentation. Chronos makes individual knowledge obsolete. It doesn't depend on a supervisor's mood or a driver's schedule. And to prove our complete confidence in this new system, we take a bold step into the future. He turned and for the first time in the presentation, looked directly at me, sitting in the front row. "We would like to thank Lucy for her years of dedicated service, but the era of phone call management is over. From today, Logimax will be 100% operated by the precision of data. Chronos is the new director of operations." The humiliation was brutal and public. He didn't just fire me, he declared me obsolete, replaced by a computer program in front of everyone I had helped hire and lead. I saw the shock on my team's faces. I saw the pity in the eyes of the drivers and supervisors watching via video link. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just stood up, grabbed my purse, and with a calm that seemed to come from somewhere else, I walked towards him. I passed him on the stage, and in a whisper only he could hear, I said, "Good luck, Victor. Pray that reality fits into your spreadsheets." He smirked, an arrogant smile of someone who had just crushed a bug. He had no idea he hadn't fired me. He had just removed the only cog that knew the machine's imperfections, and the machine was about to tear itself apart. The first few days of my forced retirement were strangely quiet. I turned off my corporate phone and spent time in my garden pruning roses, trying not to think about the chaos I knew was brewing. I didn't need a spy inside the company. Reality would be my ally, and it's not usually subtle. My secret weapon wasn't a document I needed to find, it was the knowledge I carried with me. It was knowing that the Chronos system, as perfect as it was in theory, didn't account for the most important variable, the human factor, and its infinite imperfections. The software didn't know that the weighing scale at Warehouse 3 always read 5% high, requiring a manual calibration only Mario knew how to do. The algorithm didn't know that the night shift drivers union hated the morning supervisor and that any route change order had to be communicated by me, like some kind of diplomat, to avoid a walkout. Victor, in his arrogance, believed he had created a self-sufficient system, What he had created was a glass dome, and reality was about to throw the first stone. And it came in the form of rain. On the Wednesday of the following week, a summer storm, common and predictable for anyone living in the region, hit the city. I was on my porch, sipping coffee, when my personal cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, Lucy? It's Jonas from Johnson's Hauling. Look, sorry to bother you, I know you're out, but I've got a serious problem." His voice was pure panic. Jonas was one of my emergency contacts, a man whose loyalty I had earned years ago by helping him with a personal issue. "What is it, Jonas?" I asked calmly. "Your replacement, the system or whatever, sent me to pick up an urgent load for the new client, the retail giant network. The optimized route it sent me on goes through the Valley Road. Lucy, you know what happens to the Valley Road when it rains like this." I knew. The road turned into a river. "Let me guess," I said. "Your trucks are stuck?" "Stuck is an understatement. I have 3 rigs with millions in electronics trapped in the mud. The system keeps sending unauthorized route deviation alerts and threatening contractual fines. I tried calling the Logimax emergency line, and a recording told me to open a ticket on the online portal. Lucy, I need help." I took a deep breath, feeling a pang of pity for Jonas, but also a cold, sharp satisfaction. "Jonas, unfortunately, I no longer work at Logimax. The new director of operations is Chronos. I suggest you try sending it an email." I hung up. The first domino had fallen. Victor's perfect system, which didn't account for local knowledge, the weather, or reality, had just created its first disaster, and I knew it was just the beginning. The big launch week for the retail giant was just starting, and reality had many more stones to throw at his glass dome. The perfect machine has started to fail. If you, like me, love to see tech arrogance get humbled by human wisdom, take a moment and subscribe to the channel. Lucy's revenge is just getting started. If the incident with the stuck trucks was the first crack, what followed was the shattering. My personal cell phone, which rarely used to ring during the day, turned into an unofficial crisis management center. On Thursday, the problem was at the port. I got a text from a customs broker. "Lucy, the retail giant's imported shipment is stuck in customs. Your system sent the documentation with the old tariff code. Mr. Peterson won't release it without your word. He says a computer doesn't have a man's word." I ignored it. I let the shipment rot on the dock. On Friday morning, the chaos reached the main warehouse. One of my former supervisors called me, his voice a desperate whisper. "Lucy, Chronos scheduled the dispatch of 15 trucks to the Ohio Distribution Center today. It doesn't know that the State Department just closed the main highway for emergency repairs. The order came out yesterday. It's not on any digital map yet. Only people on the road know." "And what's the problem?" I asked, feigning innocence. "The problem is that the alternate route adds 8 hours to the trip. The shipment won't arrive in time for the store's weekend launch. Victor is pacing back and forth, yelling at his tablet, saying the data is correct and the drivers are incompetent." Victor's panic was becoming my symphony. He was so attached to the perfection of his system that he was incapable of accepting the imperfection of reality. The call I was truly waiting for came on Saturday. It was a board director, an old guard gentleman who had always respected my work. "Lucy, for God's sake, what is going on here? The president of the retail giant is threatening us with a multi-million-dollar breach of contract. Shipments stuck, deliveries delayed. He said our operation turned into an amateur hour overnight." "I don't know, Arthur," I lied smoothly. "I was informed that the new system, Chronos, was infallible." "Infallible? It's a disaster. Victor assures us the algorithms are perfect, but nothing is working. He has no answers, only excuses and technical jargon. Lucy, we need you." There it was. The confession, the admission that their shiny digital future had collided with the messy analog present and lost.
Arthur, I'm sorry, but I'm just an obsolete cog, I said, using Victor's own words. My expertise is no longer needed. Logimax now operates on data. I suggest you ask Chronos what to do. I hung up, letting the sentence hang in the air. The urgency was theirs, the chaos was theirs, and the solution? The solution had a price, and it was about to get very, very expensive. The visual confirmation of the meltdown came in the form of a photo sent by a friend from the admin department. The picture showed the main Logimax control room, the one Victor called the Starship Bridge. In the center, Victor, with his hair disheveled and his tie loosened, was standing on a chair, yelling at one of the huge screens displaying the Chronos dashboard like an insane captain screaming at a storm. The photo's caption read, "He's been like this for an hour. He accused the satellite of conspiring against him." I had to laugh. The optimization genius, the prophet of data, had been reduced to a conspiracy theorist unable to accept that the real world wouldn't bend to his algorithms. Later, I got a call from one of the fleet managers, a young, ambitious guy who had initially embraced the idea of Chronos. His voice was a tense whisper. "Lucy, you need to know what happened. The board held an emergency conference call with Victor. All of us managers were forced to join." "And how'd it go?" I asked. "A disaster. The president of the retail giant joined the call furious. He said if the shipment stuck at the port didn't get released by noon tomorrow, the contract would be terminated and he would sue us for damages. The losses would be astronomical." "And what did Victor say?" "He tried to blame everyone. He blamed the drivers, customs, the legacy communication system he hadn't had time to replace. He even tried to blame you, saying you left undocumented processes to sabotage him." "Classic," I muttered. "But no one bought it," he continued, his voice filled with a newfound respect. "The chairman of the board just asked one question. 'Victor, does Chronos have the port supervisor's phone number?' Victor went silent, and the chairman said, 'Because Lucy did, and that's why she solved these problems in 10 minutes, and you've been costing us millions for 3 days. There was a pause. "Lucy, he was humiliated in front of everyone. The board gave him an ultimatum. You have 24 hours to fix this, or your system and your position will be permanently discontinued." He's panicking. He's calling everyone, offering bonuses, making threats. No one knows what to do. "I do," I said calmly. "What are you going to do?" he asked, hopefully. "I'm going to wait for my phone to ring," I replied, and hung up. The trap was not for him to fail. It was for him to know, and for everyone to know, that the only person who could fix his failure was me. Desperation is knocking, and Lucy is about to answer the door. Stories of women who know their value and charge for it are the soul of our channel. If you admire that strength, hit the subscribe button to see the price of this lesson. The phone call came at 7 a.m. the next morning. It was the chairman of the board. His voice, normally commanding, sounded tired and defeated. "Lucy, we need you. The situation is critical. The retail giant contract is hanging by a thread. Please name your price." I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee, watching the sunrise. The calm I felt was the reward for 18 years of competence. "I don't want my job back, Arthur. That chapter is closed. The era of phone calls is over, remember?" I heard a heavy sigh on the other end. "Lucy, please, this is no time for irony. We're desperate. What do you want? A VP position? Double the salary? Just name it." "What I want," I said, taking a calculated pause, "is a contract. For emergency consulting. For a duration of 1 week. Enough time to put out the fire you've created. Consulting. All right, we can do that. And your fee? I told him the number. A number I knew was exorbitant, a daily rate that was likely more than Victor's monthly salary.
There was a shocked silence. Then I heard a sound that was like a short, bitter laugh. Fair enough. You are worth every penny. The contract will be drafted immediately. What else? One more thing, I said, my tone now turning to ice-cold steel. A non-negotiable condition. For this week, I will have full operational authority, and I want a personal assistant to shadow me and execute my orders without question. Of course, Lucy. Who do you want? Our best manager? No, I replied. I want Victor. The silence on the other end of the line was even longer this time. You want the COO of the company to be your assistant? He asked, incredulous. He's not the COO. He's the genius behind Chronos, the system that was supposed to replace me. I want him to see firsthand what his system can't do. I want him to pick up the phone. I want him to hear Mr. Peterson's jokes at the port. I want him to beg Jonas for that extra truck. I want him to understand, in practice, the value of the invisible work he so disdained. He will be my assistant, or there is no deal. I heard the sound of a chair creaking. He was surrendering. The terms are yours, Lucy. Just save the contract. I'll be there in an hour, I said, and hung up. I wasn't coming back as an employee begging for her job. I was coming back as a surgeon called in for an emergency operation, and my scalpel would be the humiliation of the man who tried to erase me. He wanted data. I was about to give him an intensive masterclass in reality. My arrival at Logimax was like that of a general summoned to a battlefield. I went straight to this starship bridge, the control room. The team, previously demoralized, greeted me with looks of relief and hope. Victor was in a corner, pale, his face a mixture of rage and humiliation. "Good morning, Victor," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You'll be my assistant today. Your first task, get me a strong black coffee. And get one for yourself, too. It's going to be a long night." The humiliation on his face was visible, but he complied, under the watchful eye of the chairman of the board who was there to ensure my conditions were met. What followed was not an operation. It was a masterclass. "Victor," I said, pointing to the phone, "call Mr. Peterson at the port. The number is in my old contact book, which I have kindly brought with me. Tell him Lucy sends her regards and that she needs him to release the retail giant's shipment yesterday. And don't hang up until you've told him the one about the parrot. He likes that one." I saw Victor's jaw tighten, but he made the call. I heard him stammer through the joke, his voice devoid of any humor. And, like magic, 5 minutes later, we got the notification that the shipment had been released. The team in the control room applauded. "Now," I continued, "Jonas's truck's stuck on the Valley Road. Chronos says the nearest tow is 3 hours away, but I know Jonas's cousin has a tractor 10 minutes from there. His name is Bob. Call Jonas, get Bob's contact info, and offer him double the standard rate to pull the trucks out of the mud. Tell him it's on me." Victor, his face red with fury, made the call. In 40 minutes, the trucks were on their way. The entire night went on like this, me sitting at the center of the room, giving orders based on years of knowledge, and Victor, the optimization genius, reduced to a call center operator executing analog tasks that his perfect system was incapable of performing. Every call he made, every workaround he was forced to use, was a stab to his ego and his philosophy. The peak of his humiliation came when I needed an alternate route for the delayed shipment. "Victor, override the route Chronos suggested. Call up the trucker's radio network, talk to the host, Big Red, and ask him in real time for the best way to avoid the traffic jam on the mountain pass. Tell him Lucy from Logimax is asking." He looked at me as if I had asked him to sacrifice a goat in the middle of the room, but under my steely gaze, he did it. And the information Big Red gave us, live on air, saved the delivery. By dawn, the fire was contained. The shipments were on their way. The contract with the retail giant was saved. I stood up, exhausted but victorious. Victor was leaning against a wall, his gaze empty.
He hadn't just been defeated. His entire worldview had been publicly dismantled, piece by piece, using the one tool he couldn't comprehend: humanity. At the end of that week, Logimax was stabilized, and my consulting invoice, with its astronomical digits, was on the board's table. They paid it without blinking. It was the most expensive and best spent money in the company's history. Victor wasn't fired. The board, in an act of corporate cruelty I wouldn't have thought of myself, kept him on as COO, but his power was gutted. The Chronos system was demoted to a support tool, and a new directive was implemented. All software decisions had to be validated by a human operations supervisor, a position that was offered to one of the managers I had trained myself. Victor's humiliation was a daily one, forced to watch the methodology he idolized be subjugated by the same archaic logic he tried to eradicate. His personal hell was a corporate memo. The board begged me to stay. They offered me an executive VP position, profit sharing, anything I wanted. "Arthur," I told the chairman, "I appreciate the offer, but my time here is over. You don't need me. You need to learn the lesson." "And what lesson is that, Lucy?" he asked. "That efficiency without wisdom is just a faster way to get to disaster. That your greatest assets are not on your servers, but in the people who know what to do when the servers go down. And that the human factor isn't a bug to be fixed, it's the operating system." 2 weeks later, I was in the boardroom of Logimax's main competitor. They didn't offer me a job. They offered me a partnership and the chance to build, from scratch, the smartest, most human-centric operations department in the country. I accepted. Today, our company dominates the market. We don't just use technology. We use it as a tool to empower our team, not to replace it. Our drivers have a voice. Our supervisors have autonomy. And our system has a variable that Chronos will never have: common sense. Sometimes I get news from Logimax. I hear Victor is still there, a shadow of his former self, signing off on reports that contradict everything he once believed. He wasn't fired, but he was defeated in the most profound way possible. My revenge wasn't the check I received. It was the masterclass I gave. It was proving that in the real world, experience isn't a cost, it's an investment, and that the cog that seems the simplest, the most invisible, is often the only thing keeping the entire machine from falling apart. Lucy's story shows us that human knowledge and experience are irreplaceable. If you were inspired by her strength, please leave a like so YouTube can share this story with more people. And of course, if you're not yet part of our community, subscribe now so you don't miss any stories. It's amazing how narratives like this can connect people from all over. So we can get an idea of how far our stories are reaching. Please comment below what city, state, or country you're watching from right now. We would love to see our community on the map. Take care, and until the next story.